If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
And you know, any culture will have 30, 50, 100 things going on. Then another culture will have another 50 things, another 50 things. But if you look across cross-cultural, there's maybe 20 concepts or so that keep repeating.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the America Show. We are going to be talking to Dr. Elvir Causevic, Esquire, a little bit later. Did I mess it up? Why are you covering your face?
Causevic, yeah.
What did I say?
Causevic.
Are you sure I'm not right?
Yeah.
I knew some Causevics, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think I'm right.
Well, you asked me like 3 times and I pronounced it 3 times and then you just said something completely different. So you obviously just have no faith in me, or you just want to do it your own way anyways.
No, it wasn't like that. It was just it was just a total subconscious.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Do you think I'm wrong?
We're going to work on your subconscious. We got a guy coming on about subconscious stuff soon, so that'll be fun.
What's wrong with my subconscious?
Nothing. Just,
Nothing's wrong.
it just ignores me.
No, it fixes you.
In your own way. That's what you think. We need to apply some ancient wisdom to this problem.
What? I just did. My ancient wisdom corrected your incorrect pronunciation of Dr. Causevic's name.
Okay, buddy. Whatever.
I forget which one I said now.
Yeah, you said co.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really
Anyways, this is a good chat. Real amazing guy. You know, been through we get into all kinds of neuroscience and some of the concussion stuff that he studied and ancient wisdom. He was an engineer, a lawyer, business tycoon, father of 4.
He's well trained.
Putting it all together on UpEnd.com.
What's UpEnd.com?
That's his website.
Oh, that's just his website.
That's the new company. That's his new venture. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what have you been up to? What do you got?
Well, I wanted to ask you about your trip to Montana. We had the power outage here in our town. We had a full blown power outage. Everything out everywhere.
Everything, the lights,
including gas heating.
Really?
Yeah.
The gas heat didn't work.
The gas heat didn't work, so I'm a little bit alarmed. It was
Which
a bit
gas
of a taste.
heat? The stove?
What? The fireplace.
The fireplace didn't work.
No.
What about the stove?
And I was told it would in the power outage. So
what about the stove?
The stove's electric, so
I have a gas stove too.
Yeah. So that's alarming because maybe it was the main, because it wasn't just a blown fuse in here, the power outage in my place, it was the town maybe.
Well, if it hits the compressor station, I thought you'd be good as long as it doesn't get to the compressor station.
By the gas people too. I wasn't going just on what you said. I was told that it would work in a power outage. So
what, you didn't trust me? Well, clearly I was wrong, so you were right not to trust me. Maybe I could just buy some firewood instead of getting out here. I'd like to have a bunch more firewood than I got. You know?
Yeah. How was your trip?
It was good.
Montana? Was it snowing down there too? Or?
It wasn't snowing on the east side.
On the east side, okay.
It was raining. Sorry, on the west side.
On the west side.
It wasn't snowing on the west side. By the lake, it was raining.
Okay.
Mostly raining.
Really? Was it nice, like the leaves changing and stuff?
Yeah, it was. It was nice. The leaves were changing, but it was raining the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, which wasn't terrible. It was great. And then on the way back, it started snowing when you got up into the mountains, it started snowing a bit. And then as you got over the mountain, it was snowing more and more and more and more. Well, we kind of knew what we were getting into a little bit because we knew it snowed here. So it was good. But we drove to the fucking Del Bonita border crossing through a bunch of fucking shitty roads.
Oh, that one is that's really sketchy, kind of, isn't it? You're going up and climbing up those, weaving your way through that old forest.
It's
that was
fucking no. It was just out in the fields. It was just out in the fields, and the roads were not plowed, and it was full of snow. It was terrible.
Sketchy.
And then the fucking thing was closed.
Oh my God! What?
It was closed. The border was fucking closed.
Why?
I don't know.
Snow?
The sign said it was going to be open till 5 p.m. And my GPS said it was going to be open till 5 p.m. But it was closed. So, and there's like nobody around. No, you can't run it. I was like, that's like, because I've always said if I ever pull up and the border's closed, I'm just going to go around that shit. But there was nowhere to go. I mean, maybe if it wasn't snowing, if there wasn't a shit ton of snow in those, like, because it was all drifted up in some places, so it was pretty deep. You know, if you didn't want to go driving off the road, you wouldn't be having a good fucking time. You'd get stuck.
How was the visibility?
The visibility was pretty good most of the time. It was blowing a bit, but not too bad. It was mostly that all the drifts and stuff were already there. You could mostly see where you're going, which is good. When you can't see where you're going, that's when it really sucks. So then this border is just closed. It's just fucking closed. There's no one around. There's like a bunch of barbed wire gates that are locked shut. And you're on the U.S. sign, so you don't want to break through that. You know what I mean? Then I'm not going to break through the gate at the border. You're going to like definitely go to jail. So we had to turn around, drive back, drive along, come across a car in the ditch.
Oh my God.
And it's a Calgary taxi.
Calgary taxi?
It says Calgary taxi on the side.
Oh my God.
It's a Calgary fucking taxi cab.
What?
In the ditch, in the fucking middle of nowhere, Montana. Stuck. He had been stuck there for 3 hours. He was almost out of gas.
God. Oh my God.
So another truck stopped and we pushed him out. And then he didn't have any gas, so I had to give him some gas. I had a jerry can in the back, luckily, with gas in it. So I gave him some gas. And then he was following us. And we went around the corner and he almost hit us. Sean was like, he's going to hit us. And I look in my mirror and this dude's like, fucking just, this fucking East Indian dude is like, he's just like, I don't know if he's just never driven in the snow before or what's going on, but he's just coming flying. He's like, dude, like maybe 6 feet from the back of my truck, like half sideways. And I have to like hammer on it to like pull ahead of this guy so he doesn't hit my truck and put us both in the ditch. And I'm like, okay, well now he's got to like, he's going to calm down at some point, right? He's going to stop driving like a maniac. He just about went in the fucking ditch again, like 2 minutes later. And we get down the straight stretch and there's all this snow and I'm driving along and I'm going to kind of watch the road, right? Because it's precarious. There's a lot of snow drifts going across. And Sean's like, he's in the ditch again.
No. No.
And this time he was like fucking in the ditch, like plowed in. He's got this snow drift in front of him. So I had to like, luckily I had a chain and a couple of ratchet straps in the back. So I was able to rig up and hook up his car and yank him out of this ditch. I didn't think I was going to get him. It was a struggle. I had to put it in 4-low, but it's just so icy and snowy that, you know, he's lucky. He's fucking lucky that I pulled him out of there because it didn't seem like it was going to be good. But I pulled him out and the old Dodger pulled him out. And then he followed us around for a bit.
Did you tell him to slow down?
Yeah. So after I pulled him out the second time, I was just like, slow down, man. You just got to take it easy, take your time, relax. And I'm not going to like, I think he was maybe worried I was going to like take off on him. We were just going to take off and he would be like left out there. And I was just like, if we get to a turn, I'll wait for you. I won't leave you out here. So we got him to the interstate. And then from there, we pulled off to get gas in some little town because it's way cheaper down there. Not way cheaper. It probably works out to like, maybe like $1.30 a liter though, instead of like $1.80 here or whatever the fuck it is. So we pulled off to fill up gas and he took off. And then we were in line behind him at the border and he got through. And I actually seen him when we went past Milk River. He was pulling out of the gas station there. So we made it successfully back to Canada. But that dude is going to have a rough winter. And he could barely understand we could barely communicate because his English wasn't very good. And he's driving a taxi cab and he clearly can't drive in the snow at all.
So,
but
weird that he was in a taxi cab.
He was in the ditch
that way. Did somebody...
I don't know, someone paid a fare.
Like,
yeah, someone paid a fare to take him to the States. He's all like, my GPS got me lost and now I'm almost out of gas. And I've been here for 3 hours and only one person came by and he said, sorry, I can't help you, and drove off.
Well, yeah, it would be hard if it was only one person. They probably couldn't help.
Yeah, if you didn't have a truck. If you didn't have a truck or, a couple of people. Or if you were like, he was like a big, he wasn't a small dude. If you were like a woman or like, I don't know the details on who stopped. He just said only one person stopped and they said they couldn't help. If you were a chick, you probably wouldn't want to, I'll call for help.
So
I don't know if there was cell service out there or not. I usually have cell service because I have the cell booster.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell.
So how was the border going down? Did they ask any questions on the way down?
They asked if we were vaccinated. That was it. They didn't ask for papers. He's like, y'all are vaccinated, right?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
With some black dude. He's like, y'all are vaccinated, right?
That's disappointing.
Yeah, he asked. He didn't ask to see nothing though.
No, I know. Yeah, they don't. They haven't really done that for a while either. It
was all right. It was all right going both ways. There was no hassle. There was a line on the way back. Only one thing open, but I think that's because, and from what I heard, the reason that other border crossing closes is because they can't get any fucking people to work there.
I was just going to say that's the one that's going to close first. I mean, it's really in the middle of nowhere.
And then there was only the one lane open at Coots on a Sunday. You'd think the Sunday's a day you're expecting some people going back and forth. Maybe not. I don't know. But it was good. So the power's out for how long?
A couple hours.
Really?
Yeah.
With no heat?
No heat, nothing, no.
Interesting. That's troubling.
Yeah, it was a bit troubling.
Was it Calgary too?
No, just our town, Chestermere.
And he still had no gas.
Yeah. I'm going to actually call and find out, I think, probably on Monday or something, or today's Monday. Someday.
I wish I'd have known that. Well, my stove at I'd like to try that. I wish I would have been here. You don't have a gas stove then?
No.
Huh.
I'll let you know what they say when I call and find out, because that was a bit. I was right away checking the fireplace.
Yeah, if it was -40, you'd want that fucking fireplace working.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had to get firewood. Anyway, what'd you do?
Well, just the normal stuff.
What's the normal stuff? Walk the cat? You must not be walking the cat anymore.
No, I was just doing some, where I did. I uploaded the DB Cooper narrations for you. Got that done.
Lucky
Been
me.
narrating some other stuff, and what's that?
Lucky me.
Yeah, I meant to tell you that earlier.
You should email Dan and find out when that's coming out.
And I've been putting out some outlawed excerpts.
So there's like a couple hours of work. What else you do?
That's about it.
Tough weekend. What, do you have a quote for us?
I got a quote, and I got an email, sort of a project. It's not really a project operation, but It's from one of our past guests that I thought might be interesting to share. Oh, also we want to talk about Randall's thing too, right?
Yes.
And Grimerica Outlaw. So I'll start with a quote if you want.
Well, that last episode was a lot of people said they'd feel better about that interview if Buddy was giving it from jail.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know if I believe him either. If I did it, I wouldn't try to get out of it. I would just go to jail.
He did.
But then he got out. How long do you go to jail?
Of course you get out of it. Because if you're not criminally responsible because you've been on drugs, like psychotic on drugs, then you get out. I mean, this is what Canada's like, right? You get out of jail. I mean, they're not even putting thieves, they're not even putting criminals in jail right now. I mean,
all right. I like that answer. I like that answer better than I thought where you were going with it.
he's done his time basically, right? I mean, he did his time.
It was like fucking 9 months, wasn't it?
No. It was 4 years or 5 years. It was a few years. It was 4 years, I think. It wasn't 9 months. It was a good long time.
A good long time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what do you want out of that? I mean, he turned himself in. I mean, there was no he wasn't trying to get away with it or anything like that. He was like, yeah, I did that.
Premeditated murder. It's got to be 25 years.
Oh my God, dude. No, he was psychotic.
So
but this is why it's such a rare case. Because in the States, you're probably not going to have anybody.
But I don't think that gets you out early for being psychotic. Sorry.
Well, it's because he wasn't held criminally accountable or whatever, right? I don't know the technical terms, but
anyway, people should check it out.
Well,
it's
I got
a wild
from,
episode.
What?
It's a wild episode.
Oh yeah. I wish him all the best with that. I mean, Darren, I'm listening to this audiobook called Mad in America right now, and it's crazy, dude. How it goes back into the asylums and basically the psychiatric facilities and pharma going back hundreds of years, and it's just crazy, dude.
Crazy.
And I'm just getting up to the point where it's current day kind of thing. But it's been. Are you
listening to this just for fun? Or is this research?
Well, no, we have somebody coming on Outlawed that was suggesting I listen to that book because we're going to push back on psychedelics a little bit because of the history of pharma. What?
Is it Jan Irvin?
No, it's not. No. So speaking of Outlawed, I got a message here that you sent me. Dumped PayPal for Grimerica support. Signed up for Plus membership to Outlawed using Stripe. Win-win. I get more of your awesome content. You get more of my awesome American dollars. Do this, people. It's important.
Do something. I mean, you got to do something. Grimerica Outlawed.ca if you want to check out that Grimerica Outlawed content. You can sign up for Plus over there on Stripe or PayPal. You want to say something over there?
Yeah, because we just released, you got the All Seeing Eye episode 1 out, which is from May 1923, Manly P. Hall's magazine. And in that release, I'm not too sure how long it ended up being. Do you remember?
2 hours and 4 minutes.
Wow, 2 hours. Okay, just over the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
Nonsense is a factor in soul growth, music, Chinese cosmogony, the blue Krishna, masonry, the robe of blue and gold, Atlantis, the lost continent, books and their place in occultism, the light of Asia, a letter from the brothers of the Rosy Cross, and the third eye, an occult detective story. So that's out there for members as well, for Outlawed Plus members. And that's a whole separate RSS feed that you paste into your podcast player and then plug your username and password in, and you get the whole separate feed with the full length episodes.
That's right. GrimericaOutlawed.ca if you want to check that out, and Grimerica.ca/support, guys. It's important if you can sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation, make a sign up for a Stripe, whatever you can do to keep the show going. We still lost a ton of support. We're still down after the whole PayPal debacle. We understand if you don't want to be a PayPal, but you go over there and you can just click on the Stripe button and boom, you're on Stripe and you're back up and running. And we're back up and running and we can keep going. So Grimerica.ca/support, guys. It's important if you like the show, if you're getting some value from the content, that you give us some value back. America.ca/support. Sign up today. And we would love you forever. Motherfuckers. Do it. Do it. Do it. All right, I'm going to play the Oppo jingle for this just because I want to.
Oh, I had the quote ready there.
Oh, you fucking.
It's the profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week. Can you guess the human who spoke it or wrote it down? Profound quote of the week.
And that book I was talking about, Mad in America, is like 20 years old. And it's very, very relevant. Anyways.
Did Alex Jones get sued for $2 trillion?
Oh, I thought that was just a meme.
Is it?
Anyways. I believe the quote that I'm about to read synchronistically is about a guy that is featured in that book going back a couple hundred years.
So this quote's from a couple hundred years ago?
Yeah. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privilege to others. Will be to constitute the Bastille of medical science. All such laws are un-American and despotic and have no place in a republic. The Constitution of this republic should make special privilege for medical freedom as well as religious freedom.
Thomas Jefferson.
No, close.
Thomas
Benjamin Rush, MD, signer of the Declaration of Independence.
Signer.
Signer. I thought there was a special way to pronounce that, but I had to. I misread it.
Signer.
I thought it was a special way because it's not just a signer. I don't think it's a signer. I think it is a signer.
I'm sure it's not.
Anyways, let's move on.
What's that noise? Looks military to me. Definitely military. Probably classified too.
Dishfire, Prism, Century Eagle, Sigma, Mannequin, Artichoke, MK Ultra. Operation Project.
I'm going to just call this like Techno Signatures. This is Bruce Fenton, his email, or it might even be considered his Substack. It's called Techno Signatures. Let me just see if I go to the bottom.
Is it on Substack?
You know what? I don't think it is. No, it's just like his, so it's his own sort of blog thing, Techno Signatures. So he's talking about, did you hear about this stuff with the search for alien technologies? About the moon Ceres, is it called? So he's talking about the asteroid belt and how they thought it was a planet way back when, right? There was some people that hypothesized that it was a planet in the middle of Mars and Jupiter. And he's talking about this having rendezvoused with Vesta. So NASA's Dawn spacecraft rendezvoused with the second largest asteroid in the belt. But it was nothing but a big potato-shaped rock marked with craters. Ceres, however, offered far more mysteries and several intriguing features. So while the composition was the same, you haven't seen these pictures at all? While water, he says, possibly ongoing subsurface geological activity is present. It looks like there's growing evidence the rocky surface hides a significant amount of water. So it says, while water is an exciting discovery, it's not the presence of this crucial liquid that has brought the attention of these scientists. It's this light. So the Oxator crater, included several mysterious bright spots. The data analysis from NASA's Dawn probe enabled a detailed study of the features, including the bright spots. And they say, while the exact explanation remains open to question, the leading hypothesis is the presence of highly reflective salts resulting from the action of ice volcanoes. These so-called cryovolcanoes would be produced by subsurface brine reservoirs pushed upward by hydrothermal processes. However, it must be said that there are professional doubts about this cryovolcanic activity. So there's a really shiny, like there's a picture here, really, really shiny thing. Like it's hard to believe it would just be like reflective salt. It looks like a light. So then there's this other striking feature, and they use some AI. There's a 92 diameter, 3 kilometer deep impact structure on this asteroid. It's called Ceres. And what they did is they did this AI type so there's this, let me just get a thing here. So the initial intention was to study ways that compare how human beings and machines recognize planetary images. So they could like overlay this thing and it would better understand like whether this was artificial intelligence or not. And it would help the astronomers discover physical evidence of ETs. So the experiment was carried out. So let me go back. The neural network was given images of Ceres and soon identified a circle within a square enclosed by a larger triangle. So you're giving it to this AI that's looking for like shapes that we would make, right? Not natural shapes of an asteroid. And there's these geometric structures reminiscent of alchemical symbols, and they were initially occluded by the bright glow emanating from the reflective region. So this is really interesting now. I didn't realize that. The same feature was also picked out by human volunteers forming a control group, all of whom had no training in astronomy. So the joint human AI confirmation seemed to support further legitimacy of purportedly identifying as an anomaly. And there's a picture here of this huge triangle shape with a square and a circle in the middle of it.
You think it's a UFO?
No, I think it's
Space.
It's a old
Base.
Yeah, or some megalithic thing. I mean, it really does look square. Like when you look, it's pretty obvious that there's a huge line across there, a straight line with a square stuck to it, almost like an old column or something. But I mean, it's probably huge, so I shouldn't say column, but it looks like it. So yeah, interesting.
Email me that.
I've never heard about this. What?
Me either. Email me that so I can take a look.
Yeah, I will.
What else you got?
I think that's about it. Oh yeah, Randall live. Randall, all you can handle. Randall, all the Randall you can handle. Actually, there's a Netflix show coming out with Randall.
November 11th.
Hancock, November 11th. And the last episode is Randall sort of in the area that we do tours with him in the Scablands of Washington. But before that, he's doing a Halloween live stream on HowTube, right? HowTube?
And he's going on Joe Rogan.
But the Halloween stream is on HowTube, right? So are you going to play? You're going to play some of that in this
I'm
intro?
going to try to right now. I'm going to try and play it right now.
And then
let me see.
I'll put a link in the show notes, and you can buy tickets. It's $18
Wait, is it
for
the
live
witch
stream.
one? Did you want me to play the witch one? That's not the one I was playing. I was playing the one underneath it. I'm going to play this one right now.
Hello, folks. Randall Carlson here. On October 30th, I will be live streaming a presentation on the ancient Festival of the Dead, the precursor to our modern Halloween. In modern times, Halloween is seen as a relatively harmless celebration, primarily aimed at children, and having no particular significance other than an excuse to dress up in silly and scary costumes and have a party. But the roots of this annual tradition go much deeper than most people realize. In fact, our modern custom of Halloween is descended from an ancient tradition that was observed by our ancestors all over the world and preserved memories of a momentous event that has implanted itself deeply in the human psyche, where it still resides to this day. In this unique live stream event, the mighty cosmic secret that lies concealed in the primordial ritual of the Festival of the Dead will be revealed, in the hope that a reconnection with our deep and forgotten past will enhance the probabilities of successfully navigating the future. Thank you, and I hope I see you there.
There you have it.
Right on.
And there's
October 30th.
Yeah, there's an extended trailer, I think, too, right?
Yeah, I'll link to the video with an extended trailer and link to the ticket sales.
Bada bing, bada boom. Is that all we got then?
Yeah.
We're out of here? All right.
Just got the bio of Dr. Elvir.
Dr. Causevic? What was it?
Dr. Elvir Causevic.
Causevic.
Esquire. He's a rebel entrepreneur and wisdom activist. He's been a professor, engineer, executive, investment banker, people coach, and earth lawyer. He now runs a boutique investment bank, Tech plus IP Capital, UpEnd, a new school of ancient wisdoms, and is board of director at Earth Law and Work Life Law. So losing his country to war as a teen, Elvir finds home in desperate worlds and kinship with the othered. He's since joyously clipped 4 umbilical cords of children who have changed his life, tasted the world's finest mountain rivers, and inhaled old-growth forests. He can never again pretend not to know a beauty way. He holds a doctorate in electrical engineering from Washington University, a law degree from University of California, and apprenticed as transformational coach at Phoenix 2000 and Trainer Designs. So today his quest is to refresh our collective memory of our ancient wisdoms so we can each live well, enjoy each other, and cherish our earth.
There you have it. We hope you guys live well and cherish the earth and enjoy this chat with Dr. Causevic.
All right, Dr. Elvir Causevic, Esquire. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Very good. Good to be here.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you about your journey and ancient wisdom. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Well, let's start off with the big question that I love asking our guests, because it's the most fascinating part of what we do is how you went from being an engineer and a lawyer and a father of 4 and a tycoon in the tech world, like how you went through from all this to like ancient wisdom teaching. I mean, because this is like sort of a main theme that seems to come up a lot.
That's right. Thank you for that question. I don't know about tycoon, but that sounds good. I like that. I'll put that in my bio. Tycoon, tech tycoon. I love it.
I wasn't sure if I should say that, but I figured you
perfect.
could.
Better than oligarch these days.
Yeah.
I'm not a tech tycoon, but I am a father of 4. And look, these were not, it wasn't like a change from one to the other. These things developed in parallel. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things that I did in business and success I found in business was rooted in ancient wisdoms and rooted in core concepts, right, of respect and reciprocity and giving and empathy and like that, connecting with people at a human level. That's the root of business relationships, right? Yes, of course, brainy stuff happens and we do deals and tech and money and all of that. But at the end of the day, I work with people, and that's the most important piece. Whether it's a client or somebody that we're selling a company to, or whether it's people on my own team.
So you've always been interested in that? Was it always a conscious kind of thing that you incorporated, or because it's not really a usual thing, right? People kind of that go through that engineering business background, I don't think they sort of automatically incorporate these principles.
I was lucky that one of the teachers that's now at UpEnd.com, right? The enterprise that I'm running is Martha Borst. I met her early in my career.
Okay.
And she's really the one who got me started on thinking a different way, right? Getting me out of the kind of warrior, get it done mindset, and get it done at every expense, leave dead bodies in the wake, right? Just plow forward to say, wait a minute, is this really what you want? And is there a better way? Is there a better way to get things done?
Yeah, that's okay. That's interesting. So that was early on in your career.
That's right. That was early. That was in the late 90s. When I was running, my first medical device company. I was at Yale University teaching at the time, and I ran what ended up being 3 different medical device companies. So I was really interested in how the brain worked. So I wanted to get in there and figure it out. But one way to figure it out is to measure the EEG signals. So that was my doctoral dissertation. And the first company we did, we measured baby brains to see if baby brains are working at birth and if babies can hear. The second company I did, that one sold to another big company. The second company I did was more interesting. It had to do with consciousness. And it turns out there's about 80 million surgeries in America that where we administer anesthesia to people, and people lose consciousness and regain consciousness. And I was like a kid in a candy store trying to figure out what's happening in these brains as they're sitting there awake, and they completely lose consciousness. So much you can operate on this person, and then within a half an hour or 3 hours or 8 hours later, the person just wakes up and regains consciousness. And I wanted to see which parts of the brain light up, what goes to sleep, what doesn't go to sleep, like that. That was fascinating. That second company sold. We made a thing called a depth of anesthesia monitor. It sold it to another big Fortune 500. And then I did a concussion company, right? I wanted to see if you whack your head on something, whether you're a soldier in Iraq or Afghanistan or an NFL player, an NCAA player, right? What happens with the marbles? And can we tell when it's safe for somebody to get back in the game? And that company is still running.
Wow. So what are the results of that one? I mean, these are all fascinating subjects. Is there a chance of getting back in the game after? Can you heal from these concussion syndromes?
You really shouldn't, right? So it turns out it depends on there's kind of a set of brain waves for, call it, normal folks, the 3 of us sitting around. If you put brain electrodes on, electrodes just on our forehead, you would see kind of a particular brain pattern. If one of us had a concussion, you'd see that those brain waves, even to the naked eye, look very, very different. And then all you really got to watch is a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, do these, do the brain waves look back kind of normal, or are they still injured? And if it's injured, it's the worst possible time to put somebody back in the game. It's a little bit like, when you have a bruise and then it just starts to heal and then you hit it again, right? It hurts really badly, and brain is kind of the same way.
So, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of new developments in that area. A lot of people talking about post-concussion syndrome, and there's a lot of talk in the NFL. Was that partly due to your work at all, or was that?
Sure.
Was the timing there for you? Yeah.
That's right. I was part of a large group of people. I worked with one of the first NFL guys who came out of the National Boxing League. He came from the boxing into NFL. They brought him on board. This was 10 years ago. But we actually spent more time working with NCAA because they really they really cared to protect the kid athletes and to figure out who can go back in the game. And then we worked a ton with Wounded Warrior Project of people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. The big deal there was to figure out, you got 6 guys in a Humvee, and the ID goes off on the side of the road and tosses the Humvee over. And 6 guys come out with the same symptoms. But when you measure the brain signals, it turns out that 3 guys have a concussion, mechanically they hit the brain. The other 3 guys have a post-traumatic stress disorder. They didn't actually hit their brain, but they experienced a super stressful event. And it turns out you want to treat them differently, right? You kind of give one group anti-epileptic drugs to calm down their nerves, and you give the other group therapy and antidepressants, and anti-anxiety drugs, which are very different. So that was my big deal, and I wrote a bunch of patents with a lot of other really super smart people at NYU and all kinds of places and other people in the companies to just bring this concept that you can actually measure the brain waves and tell what's going on in the noggin, which I found very interesting because if you look back at concussion being one thing, but if you look at stress, if you look at meditation, if you look at all of these different other things, they were perfectly well described in indigenous wisdoms, which have been passed down, for literally more than 10,000 years, and then in ancient wisdoms, and back from time immemorial, this idea of kind of how do you live a good life. Like that. So it's what I found just incredible concordance, incredible agreement between kind of the heavy duty science, white lab coat, measure brain signals, and then things I learned over, if you will, on the spiritual side, and all of these different correlates that are there. And that's what's most fascinating to me, and which is why I started UpEnd, right, is to really engage in this kind of discussion. Like, what do we know from biology, science, DNA, genetics, and then what do we know from indigenous teachings? What do we know from the Bible and the Quran and the Torah and all the religious texts, Bhagavad Gita? And it's an amazing amount of overlap when you kind of strip some of the elements off and you look what's going on underneath. Is you have some pretty good recipes on how to live a good balanced life. Brain being only one part of it.
Yeah. I think that's an important bridge. The science and spirituality kind of bridge that. A lot of people are working on it, but it seems to still need a lot of attention. I want to go back to your consciousness research on the anesthesia. Did you learn anything interesting from that, like personally, or like were you able to tell like sort of how long somebody would need to stay under by the analysis, that kind of thing?
Yeah. The scary thing is that if you look at, we made this device. That gave you like a score from 0 to 100, right? So 100 is you're fully awake, 0 is you're dead. So the anesthesia, you want to keep it like between 60 and 40, right? So for heavier things, you want to go to 40, like for, heart surgeries and all that. For simpler things, some kind of colonoscopy, you want to keep it pretty light, like 60, 70, right? We gave this little index that you could do. And what was interesting, lots of interesting things there. First one, I'll just highlight a couple. The first one is you actually don't get, when you get anesthesia, you get 3 different drugs, right? You get kind of the drug that knocks you out, you get another drug that paralyzes you, and you get another drug that kind of keeps the pain away. And it turns out when we did these studies, we didn't think there were any sane human that would do this. But we asked medical students, and we had like 20 people sign up, that we would completely paralyze them, but not give them anesthesia, so they're not knocked out and they're not feeling any pain. But we just like tied off the arm with the tourniquet so they could just give hand signals, like more or less this and that and the other. And I really got some respect for medical students. I mean, these men and women have some real guts, and they were really curious. They wanted to see what happens if you have this paralysis agent. Your complete body is paralyzed; you can't move, but you're completely awake. So that was one that we was trying to avoid. Did
that parallel sleep paralysis then, or
sorry?
Did that parallel the phenomena of sleep paralysis?
No, it's a little different. This is a drug-induced paralysis.
Yeah.
You give a kind of drug, that mercuronium, that paralyzes.
So there wasn't any any other weird sort of things going on when they were paralyzed. You know how sleep paralysis, like people's bodies won't wake up, but they have like encounters with entities. And
you
stuff
could
like
ask
that.
them. You could ask them math questions. You could do all kinds of things, and they would answer. The other thing that we realized is, depending on where you are in the country, certain states like just naturally develop different standards. So I won't name the states, but in a certain group of states, doesn't matter red, blue, or purple, like everybody by design is snowed under, right? They give them so much anesthesia that there's no chance people wake up. But also, they wake up with fewer IQ points, right? Because anesthesia is not healthy for you.
Wow.
Yeah. In other states, they keep you really light, right? They kind of titrate and get it just right. And there's a lot in the medical establishment that we found out. But the interesting piece was how humans respond to drugs opiates and ketamine and propofol and mercuronium and all these different cocktails of drugs. Real sophistication, right? You think you go and you just get anesthesia. There's a real science behind it, and a lot of hardworking people. There.
Yeah, I think you made some parallels to the importance of sleep for us too, with your brain kind of analyzing the previous events and resting. And I can't remember what you said about the anesthesia and the sleep, but you talk about how important sleep is.
It's critically important, and we have an epidemic of not enough sleep. Not just in this country, but in most of the developed world. And that's one thing that goes directly against all of the teachings of ancient wisdom. It's also, we wake up, we don't really follow the night and day cycle anymore.
Right.
We work by the hour.
Yeah.
So, in the summertime, I'm up at 6, I walk my dog. It's during my summer morning prayer, right, and meditation, it's nice and sunny. And now I go through the whole morning routine of everything, and it's dark. Really shouldn't be that way. But to make matter worse is we've got all of these things that grab our attention, TVs and social media and all of that, and we just don't give ourselves the kind of time. We think we can trick our bodies to like sleep faster, or you really can't. The science is, there's no question behind it. So people talk about how can I reduce stress in my life, right? Maybe it's something at work or something in a relationship or something I'm doing. Well, one is very simple, like just cut out the things that eat away at your sleep.
Do we need? I mean, because I know people that need 4 or 5 hours. They say I probably like 7, maybe. Is there a difference for everybody, or should we be getting like a minimum amount each night? Do you think?
If you've talked to sleep scientists, and we've done a lot of work with them. It does vary from person to person, but getting by on 4 hours, I mean, you are burning something that shouldn't be burned. Something is going to give, right? Your liver, your nerves, your heart, your lungs. You're putting undue stress on some body part that you won't know for a while, because our bodies are pretty resilient. You can really work the bodies and damage them pretty well. I mean, look at smokers. Right. The reason we have this extra lung capacity is so that we can run away from the saber-toothed tiger. So if you're only using 20-30% of your lung capacity, you can keep smoking until you use up that capacity, and you won't know the difference. But sooner or later, if you keep smoking, you're starting to eat into that 30%, 20%, 10%, and then you're in real trouble. So you can fool yourself for 20 years thinking I'm doing fine, and you're really not.
Well, have you heard of that? I don't know what it's called, but there's people that are trying this sleep pattern where they sleep for 2 or 3 hours at a time, multiple times per day. So they don't go to bed like one time. They just do this little spurts all throughout the day. Is that dangerous, or?
The science says that it is, right? It's the Kennedy nap, right? Can you take a Kennedy nap and just do 2 hours and then work into the night and do 2 hours and all this stuff? I mean, maybe work for some people, but it's just there are no correlates in all the scientific research that I've seen that says that work, because you have these stages of sleep, right? You have the light sleep, you have the REM, the rapid eye movement, and you have deep sleep, and you can't get into the deep sleep in an hour or two. Maybe some people can, but for most of us regular earthlings, you need to be asleep for several hours before you can really, get that deep sleep, and that's the restorative sleep. So when you study memory, right, and other functions in the brain, that's the part when you do like the real storing of useful stuff, where a lot of the dreaming happens, where a lot of really important restorative sleep happens. And if you're kind of chopping it up all the time, then you never get to that. You never get to that point.
Oh, that's interesting. So your memory recall will suffer, probably all kinds of stuff.
What if you just wake up to go to the bathroom in the middle of it? Does that fuck it up?
I'm going to be 50 in 2 weeks. So I never thought about that problem before, but it's coming up. No, but what the way to really make things worse is if when you wake up to go to the bathroom or whatever, if you pick up the phone and check and see if there's something important, or if you do if you let your mind spin and start thinking about today and all of this. And now, instead of being a 5-minute break from your sleep, now you're up from 2 to 3 in the morning. That's just not helpful. So what I've been doing, for example, for myself, just training myself. If I get up, like almost like saying, just don't think about stuff, right? Let's clean the calendar. Let's be clear on what I'm doing before I go to sleep. Do my little evening prayer, exercise, meditation, clear everything, or shut the phones off. And I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference in my life. I can't tell you the daily difference. And as soon as I'm off the wagon, the first thing that shows up is nervousness, edginess, happiness, right? And you can track it pretty easy. And you talk to any elder out there, and you read any ancient book on anything, the basic thing they tell you is, "I told you so."
Dream time and dreaming is so important, right? I mean, I think they even put a lot more seriousness into their dreams. The messages, I feel like they were really well practiced at that.
That's right. And part of what came there is, my wife is, has a little notebook by the side of the bed. So in the morning when she wakes up, she puts the dreams down so they're fresh. And over time, you actually get to remember more of your dreams. Now, whether these messages in your dreams are some kind of spiritual connection, right, from another dimension, or whether you strictly look at biology and just say, okay, forget anything spiritual, it's just biology, they're still useful messages for you. Like, one of the things I have 4 kids, right? So one of the things I tell them is just keep track of how many times in your dreams you see something from a scary movie you just saw in the last couple of weeks. So like, don't put that stuff in your head, right? Yeah, we're all excited to watch the new thing on Netflix, but so the last thing you want to do is watch some not some kind of slashing, what is it when we were kids, Psycho and all of that stuff that was kind of hilarious. But like some of these movies you watch right now, I mean, there's like a cadre of psychiatrists and psychologists that help put them together to just like put the fear of God in you, right? Really chilling horror kind of stuff. And if you see that you watch that and in the next 2 weeks you have 3 dreams that are correlated to that, I don't know. I mean, keep doing it if you like it, but I'd say don't.
Actually, that reminds me of something you mentioned before about the pattern, recognizing patterns in your mind. Like you mentioned something like try and practice. And I don't know if we'll get into this a little bit deeper later when you talk about the pact with yourself.
Right.
But the like looking for something new all the time, which actually exercises your brain to, I guess, to create new pathways or to be recognizing new things. And I mean, I think when you're traveling, it's very easy to do that because you have to be in the moment. All the scenery is new, all the things are fresh, but in your day-to-day life, just driving around, can you give me some examples of how you would do that? Let's say like driving to and from work or just hanging around the house.
Yeah. I mean, driving to and from work, take the bus one day, right? Or take a walk, or go through a different part of town. Right. So make something interesting happen. Look, I'm oversimplifying, but kind of the way our brains work is the brain is trying to preserve energy at all times. And it's trying to say like the simplest possible path to anything. And any kind of learning is making new neural pathways. And the brain doesn't really want to do that. It doesn't really like to do that. So we fall into these patterns. I mean, it's just an energy preserving, right? It's just a biological thing. So we got to train ourselves to notice new things in our life, because when we fail to notice, right, we don't see that something is developing and you say, oh, I didn't see this coming. Well, actually, you did see it coming, right? If you got, fired from your job, for example, right? I mean, it may be that your boss is just an evil person, your company is an evil company, but it could be that it's something that you're doing or not doing that you should be doing. Right, with your clients or whatever, right? Or something with your kids that you just didn't see it coming, or with your spouse. And had you been paying attention and noticing, right, you would have seen it coming. But we're easy to just kind of stay in the pattern, stay on the track. And it's important, and ancient wisdom teaches us this, right? It's important to get out of the brain part and get connected to the other parts of ourselves, right? Get connected to the heart, get connected to the body. We've completely been disembodied, right? Because last 300 years from Descartes on, right? I think, therefore I am, meaning whatever I feel, it doesn't matter. Whatever spiritual connection, it doesn't matter. Because if I feel, I'm not. And if I'm spiritually connected, I'm not. right? If I'm in my body, I'm not. But if I think, then I am, right? Then I exist, which is nice, right? Thinking is good. It's just not the only thing. It's just one piece of the puzzle. And I think we've gone just far off into la la land. And if you look at relationships with other people, relationships we have with our bodies, the kinds of things we ingest, that if we stopped and thought for 1 second, we wouldn't do this, right? We wouldn't drink what we drink. We wouldn't eat most of what we eat. We wouldn't watch most of what we watch. We'd actually spend more time in community and with people that we like, right? And less time isolated and imbibing news or, the latest Netflix gig.
Yeah. And more time in nature, probably. I mean, really, I notice a difference when I'm in nature these days. It's a real difference. That brings up sort of the way you were talking about becoming present. One of the things that you were mentioning is embodiment. I think that's really important. Becoming getting into your body and feeling it. Whether that's like a soft pillow or something at night, breathing, your breath. Very important. Is that part of the pact too, or is that a separate thing? I learned this from one of the other teachers. Charity Martin that I've been working with for a number of years. Is this? I just didn't think of the body as kind of a useful resource. Yeah. Right, and I just kind of thought it had nothing to do with my mood. Like, what's my body got to do with my mood? My mood is in my mind, right? It's how am I feeling, what's happening at work, what's happening at home, and then I didn't think the body could be have some useful things for me. So this idea of embodiment. Is and it's the beginning of PACT, right? And PACT is very simple, right? It's PACT, and it's pause, ask, choose, and tackle. And this idea of embodiment comes in this first piece when it's act, right? I'm sorry, when it's pause before you even act, right? We're so quick to act on something, and I know I can tell you just today or just the last 5 days, I can give you 10 examples of just times where I didn't pause and got into it with a coworker, with a client at home, with the kids. My son this morning, we're going to school. He takes his shoes and turns them upside down because there's sand in them right in the hallway here. And the proper thing to do was to pause. What do they say about teachers, right? Do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work with kids, right? They're going to copy what you do, right? Not what you say. But let's take this little example, right? So we're late for school this morning. My son, tries to put his shoes on, sees that there's sand, and just tips both shoes over, and there's sand falling off, in the hallway, right, in the house. So, okay, I didn't pause. So I said, "What are you doing?" And all of a sudden, he's yelling back at me, and now we have this whole yelling back and forth and all of this. Had I paused, I would have realized several things, right? I would have realized that this was kind of an emotional reaction coming from my body, right? Had I paused, I would have realized that the damage that's caused here is zero, right? We're just going to vacuum and that's it, right? No big deal, right? Had I paused, I would have realized I have an 11-year-old boy who doesn't think about where does he dump sand out of his shoes? There's sand in the shoes, we got to dump it. Doesn't think about am I sitting on the couch or should I walk out the front door and dump the sand out? But I didn't pause. Had I paused, I could have had the second piece of the pause is to ask myself what choices are available to me. How do I respond here, right? And how important is this thing, right? Is this is just a visceral reaction from my body? I could have just calmed down the body and asked myself, what are my options? So my option is to calm down. My option is to yell, right? It's a good option, right? Sometimes it's a good option. If it's a real safety thing, you need to yell, right? If the kid's climbing on the couch is going to fall off and they're 3, yelling is a good thing to get their attention, right? Not to yell at them, but to get their attention, not to do stuff. But it's an option.
Sometimes you have to beat them.
No.
He's joking.
He's joking. He had you there for a second.
Those times are past. I grew up in those times, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't. I don't know. I think some of these. I
had a couple wooden spoons broken on me. I wasn't. Right.
I've had objects thrown at me, all for good reason, right? I think my parents, given how I grew up, had a lot of restraint.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think we should
I want to get. Go ahead, Darren.
Do you think we'd be better off throwing more stuff at kids these days?
I'd say pick softer objects.
Yeah,
just
like
kidding.
a little softer, but not totally soft. Like
That's right. You know what? But it's about modeling the behavior, right? It's about what do you model to them.
tomatoes.
And if you model flying off the handle, no matter what you do, right? Whether you yell or throw something or whatever, you're just modeling something that doesn't work, and then tomorrow it's going to come right back to you through them.
I think the important part of the pause is what you mentioned, that the reaction your brain, the reaction time for your brain is like what, 30 milliseconds, 30 thousandths of a second?
Yeah, it's actually worse, right? So your ear is plugged into plugged into the bottom of the brain, right? So your ear gets connected to you have the middle ear, then the cochlea that's inside, the little thing that looks like a snail, and that thing has 40,000 nerve endings that create the 8th cranial nerve that goes into your brainstem. That takes 5 milliseconds. So that's 5 thousandths of a second, right? 5 thousandths of a second, right? I mean, it is fast. However, all that does, it just tells you like the saber-toothed tiger is going to eat you, run, right? And then it takes another 30 milliseconds for that to come up kind of through the midbrain regions, right? Kind of roughly speaking into the limbic system. But by this time, you don't know what you're doing yet. It's just 30 milliseconds. By the time it gets to your brain, up to where you can actually see the difference, it's 300 milliseconds, like a third of a second. And one of the researchers I worked with years ago at NYU created this thing called a P300, the positive wave at 300 milliseconds. And he figured if you just play sounds in the ear and you do one different, the brain recognizes it, but it takes a 300 milliseconds delay, a third of a second. And then you got that just means your brain registered it. That doesn't mean you made any decisions yet. So the first chance is a third of a second, but really kind of a full cycle time is like, call it a second, right? That you need to do. But to really form a thought and to ask some questions, you're talking 2 or 3 seconds. So it doesn't mean you have to stop for like 5 minutes and meditate and pray and breathe, and you don't have to do
big awkward silence. It doesn't have to be
silence, but just give yourself a little time, right, to do this.
And I'm sure that if you practice that, not reacting so fast and creating that space before you respond, it gets to be somewhat automatic and somewhat easier as you go.
That's it. So all you got to do is really build that neural pathway to pause, and you just repeat that a few times. I mean, it takes a few weeks, right, to build it, but then you have it for life. And then like a dog, I have a 10-month-old puppy, and as long as I give him treats every day and tell him to heel, he's fine. If I forget to do it for 5 days, he forgets the plan. So I do the same thing with pausing. If I don't remind myself to pause in a while, that's it. In a week, you got to just keep reinforcing it.
Yeah, see, I love how you bring the science into that, because that's another one of these ancient things, right? The whole mindfulness thing, right? And watching your thoughts and creating that space between your thoughts. And the more you watch them, the more of a gap there is, and the more space there is, and the more time you have for that pause. I mean, it really fits with that, but to be able to measure it is fantastic.
Yeah. And you think of the ancient wisdoms or indigenous wisdoms, right? What do they say, right? People say, sleep on it, right? So you're giving yourself for really big decisions. You're giving yourself a lot of time to really, and sleep on it doesn't mean like spend all night awake thinking about the options, right? It literally means sleep on it. And
there is that phenomenon of the relaxation response, where when you sometimes when you're in that hypnagogic state, whether it's before sleep or after sleep, when you're well rested, ideas come to you, right? Inspiration comes to you.
That's right. No, there's so much that the more we learn about neuroscience with MRIs and EEGs and everything else, the more we can just say the indigenous people are right, and ancient wisdom people are right, and the ancient books are right, because they say exactly these kinds of things, right? So the challenge has been for me is, and why I started UpEnd is, the real challenge is this: everybody knows the basic concepts, right? So what are the basic concepts of wisdom? I use the word wisdom, but it's really kind of a roll-up word for 10 or 20 basic concepts, right? So what are the basic concepts? Courage, right? Reciprocity, patience, awareness, right? Noticing, forgiveness, right? You list these words, kind of the basic virtues and basic skills. And when you talk to somebody about these things, everybody says, of course I know these things. Of course you do, but are you really using them like as a skill? So the example I give is like, is your skill of forgiveness or is your skill of patience as strong as Serena Williams' skill of playing tennis, right? And you can wake her up at 4 a.m. and she'll know exactly what to do. She'll beat you anytime, anybody in the world, right? You wake her up, shake her out of bed, and say, "Hey, we're gonna go play some tennis. Let's go outside. It's 4:30. It's still dark. Lights are on, and that's it. You're dead." And she won every match. Same with Warren Buffett, right? By the time the three of us get up in the morning, we have our coffee, brush our teeth. He's made $1 billion, right? Because the guy has the skill. And what we've been working at UpEnd is figuring out a way of what's the best way to learn some of these skills, in some sense to relearn some of these skills, and how much time does it take, and then what do you learn from each other? What do you learn from teachers, right? That people have been around, because you're not going to learn it by watching, Dalai Lama videos on whatever Mind Valley or Masterclass. They're excellent, but are they really changing your actual life? They provide insights. There's no question, but insights are very different than building new neural pathways. And to build those neural pathways, you got to have the other two parts of PACT, right? You have the pause and ask yourself the options, but then you got to choose the option, and then T is tackle. You got to do it. You got to do it. And when you do it consistently and over time, over a few weeks, that's when literally new neurons form, like new pathways, not neurons, new pathways, new neurons. The neurons connect to each other in a different way. And then the real benefit is people talk about habits, right? There's all these books on habits. That's what a habit is. All it means is you don't have to think about it. Serena Williams doesn't come on the court and says, "Okay, now I'm going to do forehand, and now I'm going to do backhand, and now I'm going to do spin it this way." She just does it, right? So you don't need willpower, right? You're building these practices into your life. Now, all of this easier said than done, right? And but that's the conversation we're engaged in at UpEnd, is what's the right mix of people sharing and talking to each other, building a community, which is the most important part of what we're doing at UpEnd. And then what are the right times when somebody who has some experience, not like a guru that sits in front of the board and writes on the whiteboard and drops wisdom and everybody takes notes, right? That's kind of the old model that doesn't really work. Again, if you look at ancient cultures and indigenous cultures, they learn through repetition, right? They learn through ritual, prayer, ceremony, rite of passage, dance. It's all the same lessons. They just teach it to different people in different ways, and you repeat it in interesting and engaging ways, and then you end up learning.
That's interesting. What's the difference between, or not the difference, but can you tease apart a little bit between ask and choose? So after you pause, you're asking yourself, like, what do I do in this situation? And then you choose, and then, or it's sort of just between the act, choose, and tackle part?
Sure. So the ask piece is you ask yourself, what options are available to me? Right, so let's go back to the dumping sand for my son's shoes, right? So one option available to me would have been to go to kind of the light heart and say, "Oh man, I've been meaning to build a sandbox here in the house. Thanks for contributing, the first pound of sand. This is awesome. The dog's going to love it. It's going to be great," right? I certainly had that capacity. What is it Jeff Foxworthy used to say, or one of his friends? I had the capacity, I just didn't have the ability, or whatever it is, right? But asking yourself which options are available to me, and pausing and saying, I can yell, I can be quiet, right? Maybe the smart thing to do is just to be quiet, walk away, pretend it didn't happen, right? I can make a joke out of it, right? Like that.
And then choosing and tackling. Choosing and tackling.
Of this array of options, I'm aware of what's happening right now. My son might be doing it because he's unconscious. He might be doing it because he's worried about school. He might be doing it because he wants to get back at me for something I did, right? So what's the right choice at this moment? The choosing is you got to choose one thing. Because if you try to do 5 different things, it's not going to work. So the process of choosing is an important one. And that's where your values come in. So you say, look, I'm a nice guy. I don't yell, right? I'm going to choose either a light heart or an advice, right? And I'm going to catch myself doing, this is the choice that I made. This is something that has to be practiced, right? This is not, because if you let yourself go on automatic, you'll choose what I chose this morning, which is to yell. which is exactly the opposite, the wrong thing to do.
And then tackling it is just putting it into
Tackling
action.
is just do it.
Yeah,
So
actually doing it. Yeah.
I chose, let's say, the right thing to do would have been to be the light heart this morning, right? And there was a choice that was available to me. So when I asked myself, what's the menu of choices? Because this is where you get in trouble when you ask. So this morning I thought my only menu of choices it was to yell, right? Or to be quiet. But in fact, I had 5 more choices, right? I could have yelled,
exactly.
could have been quiet.
Could have made a
Could have
joke.
done this. I could have done that. I could have made fun of it. I could have made fun of him. I could have made fun of myself. Right? I could have done a lot. I could have been very calm and tell him something.
Six.
Did you have a comment?
I said you could have beat. You could have 6. You could have beat her.
It goes back to the beating thing.
Must be that mustache. I mean, I don't know.
That's it.
That's pretty racist.
Lots of choice. So I could have beat, yes, but that's like, no, we don't do that, right? It's another option. But the first thing is to expand the menu of choices and then choose. The choose part is pick the one thing you're going to do, choose it based on the context, based on the outcome you want to go with. And then T is tackle is just follow through and get it done. That's where the learning happens. Right? Yeah. So my brain, basically what happened this morning with my brain, I had 0 learning. I yelled at him. He snapped back at me.
Yeah.
It's the same story, same movie we've seen, each of us has seen 100 times. 0 learning happened. Right? Had I been smart enough to notice in my list of available choices, I gave myself 2 choices. I could be quiet or I could say something in a snappy way. In fact, I had 5 choices, but I didn't think about that. And then I chose to yell, just even of the small number of choices, I chose the wrong. A 50-50 chance to get the right thing to do, and I did the wrong thing. Fine. Right? But then following through with it and actually doing it all the way through, that's when the learning happens. Because what would have happened, I bet, had I made a funny joke about it, would have opened the opportunity to discuss and to talk about it. I probably would have embarrassed him. He's a nice kid, right? He would have cracked back with another joke, whatever it is, and it would have worked very differently. Sorry, my dog has something to say.
Yeah, that's okay. So that you have the archetypes on your UpEnd website too. So upend.com is that website, the new company there. You've got the archetypes, the warrior, the mystic, the light heart, and the lover. How do you incorporate that into your teachings? Is that something that we need to find balance around, sort of being maybe embodying part of all those, or is it good to identify where you're at? How does that work?
Sure. So think about, like 4 basic archetypes, right? They show up in hundreds of different cultures, right? And it's some combination of, mind, heart, body, soul, or it's warrior, lover, right? Light heart and mystic, like that. So just use these things as kind of a simplifying device, right? So you just say, we all kind of know what a warrior did. Like warriors get it done, right? And lover is take care of stuff, right? And be gentle and have empathy. And mystic is kind of connect with something greater than yourself, right? And get some advice from your better self, right? Or your mystical self, or your spiritual or religious, source, whatever it is that works for you. And the light heart is, how do you bring some lightness into the situation? How do you bring a light heart into the situation? So think of those 4 archetypes in your life, and ideally, you have all those 4 available to you as a toolbox, and you can pull out of any one of them the right thing to do in the right situation, right? So if you're in some kind of a work situation and you got to get stuff done, being a light heart and just kind of being ha ha ha, this is really funny, da da da, like that's not going to get things done, and it's going to turn people against you, right? Because it's like not funny. We're at work, we got to get stuff done. Like the show is going on, we got to get stuff going. Like stop goofing off, get it done. So you can call the wrong set of skills up at the wrong time. But what happens to most of us, we fall into one pattern. Out of these 4, we'll just be the supporter, right? We'll just be the guy who loves everybody, or the woman who loves everybody, takes care of everybody. And like sometimes those people, like they don't get stuff done. Or the other one's just joking all the time, or the other one's just in foo-foo la-la land, connected, just waiting for the spirit to provide everything, and talks about abundance and drives a beat up car, right? Like that. So it's about pulling these things up as and when you need them, developing some skill in each of them, and then rebalancing them. Ideally, rebalance them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Yeah, I like that. So, Darren, do you have any questions at all, or any thoughts?
No.
Okay. I am interested in through this whole journey of ancient wisdom and all that. Have your views on the Enlightenment and materialism changed at all? Like how, I mean, I guess then I'll ask more questions based on your answer on that.
I mean, look, it's a loaded question.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe they haven't changed. I mean, maybe they've been the same, but I know mine have been changing and developing over time.
That's right. I think a couple of things are happening, right? One thing, I think there's just a general level of awareness is going up. I just know the conversations I have with my close friends, right? Or with my family members. I mean, we used to just shoot the, breeze about this and that and the other. Now we're talking about more important things. And it doesn't have anything to do with age, right? I'm having the same kind of deeper conversations with my kids than I did before, right? Or with people at work, coworkers that are in their 20s. Right, that just the same coworker that was 20 years old, 10 years ago, we didn't talk about a lot of the things that we talk about today. So I think there's a positive wave of awareness and consciousness that's arising, and that's a good thing. I think the other thing, the flip side of that is, I'm sorry.
Can you give us an example of something?
Just look at what's happening in the, just look at the movies, right? Just look at the music. Look at the kind of the messages we're getting through music that used to be, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and it was boy loves girl, girl loves boy, and then I hate the world, and that's that. And today you listen to somebody like Grandson, right? Super cool kid. And, he talks about, you sold your son and the daughter for another $1 in your pocket, right? And you sold the water and there's no more water and water's running out and like that. Like, whoa. That's what my kids are listening to these days. I didn't listen to that, right? So it's in the air, right? And if I talk to my kids how they deal with issues of diversity today, and how they're like not freaked out over anything or anybody, like the level and degree of acceptance that they have versus the degree of acceptance that I grew up with, whether I was on the receiving end or the doling out end, it's just very different. And I think that's helpful, and that level of awareness is there. Now, I think the parallel thing that's happening that I think is frankly dangerous is a lot of the, if you will, the awareness work and consciousness work and spiritual work is being co-opted by folks who either see an opportunity to make money or folks who see an opportunity to push a particular agenda. It doesn't matter if you're, right wing, left wing, woke, anti-woke, whatever. But if you're kind of hijacking, it's a little bit like somebody hijacking the Bible or the Quran to explain the bad things they're doing, and they quote a verse from whatever, Genesis or a verse from the Quran, and say whether you're for or against it. There's some verses there you could misinterpret in any different way. It's the same thing what I'm seeing happening now. For example, I live in Silicon Valley. A lot of the big tech companies here, I think, kind of co-opted the whole meditation and awareness and to get like more compliant workers who can work longer hours at the office instead of taking real time off. Like, don't make people work 80 hours a week and go to meditation classes. How about you let them work 40 hours a week and let them just go do whatever they want with the rest of their time? That's
a good example too. I mean, it's also probably happening in the New Age movement a little bit. I mean, we've sort of had some top shows on the New Age, and I'm a little bit New Agey myself, so I have a hard time with this whole thing. But I mean, people are kind of pushing back on the New Age a little bit as being a bit scammy these days. You got well-known medical doctors that go on TV and start hawking, unproven supplements, right? So it's okay if you and I hawk supplements, because I don't know about you, but it's okay. If I hawk supplements, it's okay because I'm just hustling. I don't know what I'm doing, right? And I don't know if this supplement does something or doesn't do something. But if you're a medical doctor and you actually know that this supplement is total quackery, I'm just a weasel businessman if I'm selling stuff I don't know anything about. You're actually committing like
fraud. You shouldn't be doing this because you actually know what you're doing, like that. So there's a lot of that's been co-opted, right? In kind of the co-opted spirituality, and I mean, you see the scandals that are happening, right, in religious organizations, right, with these new movies that are coming out, whether they're true or not, right? The alleged, sexual malfeasance and all of this. You see it in business, right? Remember the old days of Enron and WorldCom, and today WeWork and the bro culture at Uber, and people just lying and cheating, and all under the guise in this new age, or under the guise of saving the world and being so wonderful. Facebook is has a staff of 300 psychiatrists trying to figure out how to get into my kid's brain. Juul is selling. Vaping is back on. I mean, there are more kids vaping today than there were kids smoking when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right? So you tell me if that's a good way to make money. Shoosh, right? It's are we using the things that we know for good or not? And that's where I kind of draw the line, and that's why I wanted that UpEnd to just have something that's transparent, that everybody sees what we're doing, that there's no secrets, there's no gurus, there's no foo-foo-la-la stuff. We clearly say, hey, this comes from this tradition, this comes from this tradition, this is spiritual, this is biology, right? This is religious, this is physics. And then you make your own, because at the end of the day, we trust people to, they got everything they need in their own life to make their own decisions, and figure out what's good for them in their life, right? Rather than some guru or guruette saying, just follow me and say these 4 magical words and things will be good.
Yeah. I love it. It's like practical wisdom or practical spirituality.
Yeah, living wisdom.
Like right? from living wisdom. Yeah.
Living wisdom. That's right. You're exactly right.
So what about from a materialistic standpoint, or like the new atheist movement, compared to just compared to like a spiritual reality or extended consciousness reality? Like, have you seen a shift in the last 10, 20 years that I feel like it's hard to know because we're kind of in it, but I feel like there's more awareness and acceptance around the phenomena of consciousness and extended consciousness, that there are other realms, or there's another spiritual reality besides this sort of materialistic one that we've kind of been sort of pushed into. But on the other side of it, there's also the stuff that you're talking about, like this sort of this co-opting as well that's happening. But what's your thought on the first kind of question?
Yeah, it's an important question, I think, today. And, I'm a little sad that various religious institutions have kind of fallen off track a little bit, right? It's that, so, you see statistics every year how many fewer people go to churches and mosques and synagogues, and you see churches and mosques and synagogues, in New York City being converted to, bars and dance clubs, and in San Francisco we have one that was a beautiful church. It's converted to a skating club, right? Inline skating or whatever, hippie inline skating thing.
They should make it a gay
so
bar.
I think that was one. So we kind of we came from a system that said, okay, we have a traditional education system. We're going to teach you science over here, and we're going to only focus on your brain and nothing else, right? We're going to be a skeptical, atheist, evolution-based scientists in school. But we did that with kind of a context of there being a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or whatever, a Hindu temple, or whatever it is. And it was kind of there in the background. So you didn't really, you could outsource that kind of stuff. You could outsource the spirituality, and you could do separation of church and state and separation of church and school, because you had church and you had school. And then over time, I think as churches, whatever, through their own scandals or through their messaging or through whatever.
Dogma, maybe.
Dogma, right? And then these kind of new agey movements that came and try to make money, and, the new Buddhism and new this and new that. Kind of people got a little spooked about the statistics. I'm just looking at the statistics, right? So fewer people are engaged in religious and spiritual practice in an organized way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good thing necessarily. So, because then the only thing you're left is the brain and kind of scholastic and academic. I was a professor at Yale, right? I used to teach math. So I know about the academic way of thinking. It's dry, it's logical, it's reasonable. And it also leaves aside your heart, your body, and your spirit altogether, which we kind of need to live. So then what I'm seeing is people that are just saying, okay, I need something. And then people are kind of falling for anything, right? Looking for anything, chasing the next new thing. And it's hard to distinguish what's the real deal and what's not the real deal, right? Is somebody hawking some kind of a new theory they concocted, 3 days ago that's not proven, that doesn't work, that's actually sending you in the wrong direction, frankly, right? Like these single source solutions, right? All you need in life is empathy and nothing else. All you need in life is awareness and nothing else. All you need in life is high performance and nothing else. All you need in life is these vitamins, like that. All you need is this radical exercise routine that you get up at 4 a.m. and you lift 800 pounds and you do that and the rest of your life works. And I think these single solutions are good in the context of all of them being together, but oftentimes they kind of exclude everybody else and say, this is the solution, I'm the guru, and you just follow me, and it's positive intelligence, it's the whatever the thing of the day is. And what I'm hoping to do is that there's going to be, what's emerging is kind of a network of people that can tell kind of what's real and what's rooted in something real and who's in it for a good reason and in it doing things in a good way and who's just trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost a segue to how you guys organize your information or your courses based on, like, there's some things that you check into all these ancient wisdoms and you make sure that there's some, like, they've been around for this long, or they've sort of been tried, tested, and true, and there's similarities between them all. Maybe you could dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, look, as I was thinking about what worked for me, I'm a skeptical engineer by training, and I went to law school later in life, right? So I can go to the maximum skeptical spectrum with anybody. At the same time, I'm a spiritual person, so fine, leave that to one side. Let's just talk about the skeptical piece. So I was a little concerned about the kind of the new age hacks, right? Whatever the hack is of the week, and I wanted to find something that, like, as a good scientist, like, do we have, if you're going to use some cancer drug on yourself, right, or prescribe it to a patient, what you want is not one study. You want to do an analysis of 20 studies that have been done over the last 20 years across different continents. So if I'm going to teach something in the wisdom world, I'm not a guru, right? So I can't tell from my experience. I'm still figuring this stuff out myself. But I look back at humanity's wisdoms and I said, look, there's really two filters. I learned this from one of my teachers, Patricia James, who's an indigenous woman. And she worked with a professor from Berkeley who is an anthropology professor, Angeles Arian, and was also the carrier of the Basque tradition, right? The spiritual carrier of the Basque tradition for many years, and kind of recognized in the Basque, tradition and all of that. And what I learned from the two of them through Patricia is you look for things that are, one, cross-cultural. Do they show up independently in different cultures, and it's the same concept? And any culture will have 30, 50, 100 things going on. Then another culture will have another 50 things, another 50 things. But if you look across cross-cultural, there's maybe 20 concepts or so that keep repeating. Courage, patience, reciprocity, forgiveness, discipline, empathy, compassion, They're the same. The message when you talk to, you listen to what Jesus said or what Muhammad said or what anybody said, Abraham, religions, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, right? Clinical studies, you kind of got it covered. It's cross-cultural. So I thought that's safe to teach because it arose independently across so many different cultures. The other filter I had is that I learned from them is what's perennial, what has lasted a long time, right? Not like we came up with some new generation like COVID vaccines or whatever, something vaccine and some, we had all of these things that we started and, seemed like a good idea at the time. What do we used to put in water, right? All kinds of things. And we seemed like a good idea. Everybody used to have their appendix taken out and their tonsils taken out for 30 years. And later we said, maybe that's not such a good idea.
Wait, they don't do that anymore?
No.
They don't take out appendixes?
No, maybe that's why my kids are as crazy as they are as kids.
Tonsils either?
No.
Lobotomies, I mean,
reason.
lobotomies too. I mean,
I know some.
Lobotomies. We had, we had like all kinds of crazy stuff that we thought worked for a while, and then we thought, that didn't work.
Lobotomies get a bad
what's
rap.
safe to teach at UpEnd is, let's say, whatever the teaching is, if it survived about 1,000 years, right? It's pretty good. That's a lot of generations, right? And if it stayed in that one culture for 1,000 years and it survived all of the questioning, all of the skepticism, all of the, that Native Americans talk about this concept of 7 generations out, right? That's 300 years. So everything you do, what's 7 generations out, right? We support this through UpEnd. We support this organization called the 7th Generation Fund. It's an indigenous-only fund, and they support all kinds of projects like that. And I love that concept. I mean, imagine if people who built Exxon Mobil and whatever, the Sin companies or Philip Morris or whatever, if they thought about 7 generations forward. They didn't. Their own kids are paying the price. They're paying the price. Right? For what? For a handful of dollars that, there's $1,500 on the various public stock exchanges. There's 15 that are Sin companies. Right? A lot of them may figure out a way to make money that didn't. I'm not saying we didn't need oil and gas at the time. But for 50 years, we've known this stuff is not good. For 50 years, we've known, hydropower, wind power is good. We've known hydropower is not good because it kills all the fish and wildlife and all that. So it's just about what has worked for a long time and how do we think about the rights of future generations? How do we think about including others in our thinking? And I thought the safe way to do it is, one safe place is ancient wisdoms, another safe place is indigenous wisdoms, another safe place is like real academic wisdom research. Not dry philosophy, that also is important, but we had a lot of weird things in philosophy as well, right? Heidegger was a Nazi, right? He's a super brilliant philosopher, but he also thought Hitler was it.
Oh, yeah, and like Sanger and Bill Gates' dad were eugenicists.
I don't know about that, but yeah, there's a lot of different weird things going on. And I just thought, I love this concept of cross-cultural and perennial. And I thought, this is what's safe to teach.
Yeah.
And when people talk about reciprocity, for example, today when you talk about reciprocity, let me just give you one example. Most people who ask about reciprocity, they know what it is, right? I do something for you, you do something for me. But if you look at indigenous wisdom, that's not what it says about reciprocity. What it says is there's a hoop of life, right? I'm reinterpreting the best I learned it, right? So we should go talk to indigenous people. They'll tell us how it really is. But here's middle-aged white guy interpretation, the best I could figure it out. There's a hoop of life, and in that hoop of life is all the humans and all the four-legged and all the finned people and all the winged people and the clouds and the sun and the planets and everybody else. It's a hoop of life. Reciprocity is you have a special gift, but the reason you're here, and you give into the hoop of life. So I don't give to you. I may give to you individually, but I don't have an accounting system like we have in America. I do something for you, exactly 75 points of something, and you give me exactly 75 points of something else. Then I turn to the next guy, and I give him 36 points of value, and he gives me back 36 points of value. So I keep a really close accounting system in my head. Who owes me favors, whom I owed favors to, and we kind of do the best thing to balance this out. But the reciprocity is a one-on-one contract. And indigenous wisdom says, no, reciprocity is a contract between you and the world around you. And you got to have a little trust, right? Which is, frankly, if you think about it, this is how a forest works, right? The plant in the forest doesn't flower, so it would get something from a specific bee, right? The bee comes and pollinates the tree and the flower, and then the bee makes the honey, and then the bear eats the honey, and the hare eats the bear, eats the salmon, and the salmon goes in the river. Nitrogen from the dead salmon flows down the river into the ocean. Orcas eat the salmon. Like, it's a massive system that works really well, except for the humans that we inserted, right? In the middle of the planet. We're the ones who screwed up the system. So it's a little bit about not just teaching what reciprocity means, but reteaching what reciprocity means. And I thought, if you look at reciprocity from what we know from the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st century, reciprocity is what I just said, one-on-one accounting between you and me. And reciprocity, if you go back a few years, a few generations, means something completely different. And that's the kind of teaching that I thought, okay, this is a safe thing to teach. Now, what we don't teach is, did the earth, is the earth a turtle, a whirl, and a turtle? Or is it, did God create the earth in 6 days? Or 7 days or 10 days, or these are kind of specific cosmologies from different religions. And frankly, if you talk to indigenous people around the world, they love hearing about other people's religions, right? So there's a story. There's a guy named John Mohawk, who was a Seneca, Native American. And he tells this story about how the Christians try to convert, the Indians, Native Americans, Indians at the time, right? He says the word Indians. And he says they would give him this religion, and the Native Americans would just listen, right? They would be fascinated. It's beautiful, right? Jesus Christ and this and that and this story, and the earth was created and all of this. And then the preacher would say, well, so you guys want to convert? And the Native Americans would say, no. We love, we have our own thing. But there was 500 tribes here before we got here. And everybody had their own thing, and they didn't try to make the other guy take their thing, right? So that's a really nice thing to do, and say they were fascinated with each other's view of the world, and we like to beat each other up with our view of the world, right? Just on Fox News and CNN, right? You don't even have to go religious or spiritual.
Yeah, that sounds like the potlatch, Darren, too, with the reciprocity. I mean, wasn't there a real giving? Like they would really sort of practice giving to each other more than receiving. It would be giving, right? Who can sort of give the?
It's all about the giving, because it's giving plus trust, right? And the way they learned that they can trust the system is they were keen observers of nature, right? They just looked how nature works, and nature takes care of everybody, right? Everybody's got it. It's abundant. It's an abundant system. Everybody does just fine in a forest ecosystem, right? In an ocean ecosystem, it works just fine. It's just the right amount of oxygen and nitrogen, just the right amount, just the right number of coral, just the right number of wolves and sheep and elk and salmon and bears and everything else. Kind of balances itself out. And we come in and we say, no. We want to have farmed salmon, so let's just have 100 million salmon. Then we'll put 4 dams on a river, and then we're going to kill the orcas because they don't have the salmon. So we're living in the world of unintended consequences, right? We got the benefit of the car and cheap energy, but now we got global warming, right? We got the benefit of whatever, and now we got, COVID, or we got this, or we got that, right? Because we're disturbing these natural ecosystems instead of learning from them.
Yeah, I agree. But I think we weren't dropped in. Well, I mean, maybe we were, but I feel like we're a part of the environment. I mean, we are a part of it. It's how we learn to live with it, like the ancient cultures did,
And that's really the point of practical wisdom, is how can we bring back? We can't bring back all of that. We're not going to go back to the cave, all of us, right? There's too many of us to go to the caves. So I'm not suggesting that we just go back and everybody live like cave people, right? I'm suggesting, what are the lessons that we can learn from nature, and then from the original people, right, that came from Africa, right? What did they learn? And then all the way through. So you have ancient cultures that kind of were there and they are no longer there, right? They just disappeared, but they left a lot behind, right, for us to learn from. And then there are indigenous cultures which spent real time passing wisdom from generation to generation, right? They really invented a lot of good spiritual technologies for the next generation to really learn the ways of the previous generation, which plants to pick, what time of year, what kind of animal to hunt, when to migrate, and they just learn from one to the other. And with us, we say, you don't need to learn, just go to school. We'll teach you algebra, spelling, and you're good.
Yeah, I mean, look, they even built ancient structures based on the celestial systems, the solar and the lunar. I mean, yeah, they were handing it down. Darren, you got any last minute questions?
No, I don't think so. No, I think that was a nice chat.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Yeah, so tell us about a little bit more about how to connect with you on UpEnd, or how people should get a hold of you.
Sure, it's very simple. Website. We built UpEnd as kind of a transparent community, right? We're not selling anything. We're not pushing anything. We're not, preaching anything. It's a community for people who care about making their life work better, but want to do it kind of in a good way, right? In a solid way, without having to buy and subscribe to some specific way to do it. And I say community because it really is a community. When we do surveys after classes, people say they learned as much from the other people as they did from the teachers, right? And we create all these opportunities, right? We have this little wisdom happy hour that happens. There's all these little free events that you can Sorry about that. My dog.
That's
never barks.
that's okay.
And there are all of these free events where people get to interact with each other and talk to each other. And then we have the teachers who are experts in one particular area, right, of transformation of life, or coaching, or embodiment, right, or indigenous culture, or personal and professional development, like that. Who and the model is very simple, right? Is we kind of drop a topic, we talk about it. Teachers share a few things. We talk about it, so the learning happens organically and through discussion. And almost everything is free. We're running it like a nonprofit, so we have paid classes, right? And we have things that you can do on your own, like just download and look and see online. And then we have classes where there's like a real class, like a 90-day class, where you say, look, I want to work on some wisdom skills in my life. I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to pick what I want in my life. What matters to me right now is, forgiveness, abundance, and patience, right? And then you spend 90 days working with the coach to build that. So that's the idea at UpEnd. The address is upend.com. Very simple. And then it's info@upend for emails, and we're on all the social media and everything else. And it's, we invite people to stop in, check it out, come back, come and go as you please, right? There's no hooks, no tricks, no gimmicks. It's something that we were doing that we think is useful to engage people in the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks. This has been great.
Is UpEnd just UPEND?
Yep.
UPEND.
And it's like that, UpEnd. Like on Twitter and all that?
That's right. Yep. You can find it on all of those places.
Cool.
Right on. Thanks, Elvir. This has been great.
That's been fantastic. Thank you both, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that was a chat with Dr. Elvir Causevic. What'd you think, buddy?
Dr. Elvir Esquire.
What's
quite
Esquire?
a high performer, eh? I mean, imagine that, eh? All the stuff he's doing, starting companies, lawyer,
doctor, lawyer,
mathematician, ancient wisdom. Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I kind of wish it didn't have to go into global warming and stuff in the end, but that's okay.
No comment.
That's fine,
That's when I was like, when you're like, do you have any final questions? Because I had a couple, and I was like, nah.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing, and I don't know. I mean,
what does Esquire mean again?
He's a lawyer. He got his degree in law school.
That's all Esquire. Oh, right. Esquire is just a lawyer.
Not so just a lawyer. I mean,
come on.
Can't say just a lawyer.
Can I? I just did. You don't think? I mean, no offense to Dr. Causevic, to Elvir, if he listens to this, but I mean, come on, let's not put the lawyer on a pedestal. You think I could be a lawyer? I should be a lawyer.
No, I don't think so.
No,
this is a lot of reading. You got to be a little more detail oriented. You might find a way to pass the bar somehow, but
is that all I got to do is pass the test? I don't have to go to school. Can I just walk in off the street?
Just walk in, right? That's a tough exam. I mean,
just boom, I'm a lawyer. That'd be all right. Nah, it seems lame just arguing in court. Darren Grimes Esquire does have a nice ring to it, though. I'll just add it. Anyway, big thanks to Elvir for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're a supporter, if you're, PayPal, Stripe, whatever you want to do. If you're a supporter, we couldn't thank you enough. We couldn't do this without you.
Yeah, we really can't. I'd have to go back to work.
Yeah, or live under a bridge, and winter's coming.
Winter in Canada.
You ain't living here, buddy.
Yeah, winter in Canada. Yeah. Like Elvir mentioned, like you're gonna wake up and first 3 hours is dark.
Yeah, we're here already. There already. I went to the gym this morning. It was dark. It was fucking dark, like pitch black. It was pitch black.
Yeah, well, the clocks will go back in a week or so.
Fuck the clocks going back. I wish it would just.
But I was going to ask him about that. Like, so how are we supposed to live with this to the circadian rhythms if they're so out of whack in these northern areas? Are we supposed to live near the equator? Like, is that healthier for us physically? I wonder if it is.
Well, I think you would just sleep more in the winter. You would conserve more energy. You spend some time.
Maybe that's
spend some time in the wigwam fucking.
Yeah. sleep in.
There was
In the
no
summer, you go to bed late, get up early.
That's right.
I
Jason
guess. I don't
Buffalo.
know.
Anyway, it was a good chat. Anyway, and if you guys support the show, we would love you for it. Check out our other podcasts, Grammarica Outlawed, over at grammaricaoutlawed.ca. Check out our audiobooks, adultbrain.ca. Join the chats, grammarica.ca/chat. So we have a Telegram now. It's just Grammarica, I think, right?
I can check right
TS
now.
dot whatever.
There's a link in the chats, though, for that. But
In the show
let me
notes.
just check here quickly. Grammarica is Grammarica, yep.
There you go.
It just says Grammarica. It's that t.me/Grammarica, yeah.
There you have it. You can join any of those. You can go to contact@thecavern.com. and
We're
join
back
us on
in
Twitter.
Discord. I mean, I think Cruising with Steak is stealing some of our good channel content, and our bots, they're taking them over there. So people were playing around with bots in our Discord, and then they just all went to Cruising with Steak. So thanks, guys.
What's Cruising with Steak? We love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Your mind's on fire, all the color red in a blue lagoon. In a storm in Bermuda, you've dive bombed into a seashell swoon. Maybe your easiest dreams make sweet perfume. While you're yawning, yet not breathing in a hospital room. Should I call for help? We are drowning in this ocean swell. Let's start from scratch. Quit living these lies and become unattached. The idea of some far-off future is the fuel for your worries. But for God's sakes, time is eternal. Please do not hurry. Please do not fret. Please act now in a way that doesn't lead to regret. Please stop smoking so many cigarettes so profusely.